What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Let's get into some more mental entitled parent stories. Entitled parent tried to use me as an example to her children while I was at work trying to teach them about Megalodon. So I worked at a pretty well known and popular aquarium over the summer. Usually my job was great and the kids are always enthusiastic about learning about our cool animals, and the parents are usually just as enthusiastic. We had the occasional rude guest, but my summer there was great until my very last day. We had a stand at one section of the aquarium where we had cool shark teeth, jaws, and a skull to show kids who were interested. We even had a really cool megalodon tooth that was really popular with the guests. Anyway, enter entitled parent and her two daughters. I want to call them SK1 and SK2 because they were genuinely very sweet the whole time and seemed to be getting very embarrassed by their mother. Sweet Kid 1 is the older sister, but they seemed about the same age, maybe 11 or 12. The ages, I think, are pretty important to the story. Now, I want to note before I go into it that this entitled parent doesn't think she's entitled to any objects or anything in this story. No, instead, she was entitled to wasting my time and tried to make a fool or example out of me to her daughters. So now into the story. They walk up to my stand and I greet them and go through my whole script of what each tooth was, where they came from, talked about the jaws, the number of teeth they have, etc. Things were going great until I started telling the kids about the Meg tooth. The first sweet kid was holding it and seemed in awe of its size, and I told her there was no need to worry about seeing it in the oceans as it is extinct. She then asked me how/when it went extinct, and I told her that, well, we don't know the exact year that it died, but it outlived the meteor that killed the dinosaurs, as it went extinct due to a lack of prey millions of years ago. She and her sister immediately had a confused look on their face and said, "Meteor? What meteor?" I was a little surprised and said, "You know, the meteor that killed the dinosaurs?" And they both shook their head. I was shocked, as I said these girls were both preteens and they had never heard of the meteor. I was about to tell them about it when EP jumped in. She immediately announced, "Oh, we never heard of that story before." I asked them what story they had heard instead, and SK1 excitedly said, "The flood." At this point, I was just thinking, oh no, but continued on, since part of my job was educating people about our animals and fossils. I told them that the flood they were talking about happened much later than the meteor, and that was the thing that had killed humans. The meteor killed the dinosaurs. They asked how, so I told them it hit the Earth and it caused the entire planet to be covered with ash, volcanoes were erupting, etc., and that it made the planet unlivable for a lot of life on Earth, and things started to die as a result. At this point, their entitled parent starts laughing like the whole concept was absurd. She tells me that no, that is just a theory. So I tell her that actually we have proof that it happened. There is a thick layer in the Earth's crust that has a specific chemical makeup due to the result of the meteor, and that all dinosaur bones we find are in that layer or lower. And she tells me that again, no, that is just a theory. I was pretty taken aback by that comment, seeing as I told her she could literally dig down right now and find the layer I was talking about, and that people have literally seen it with their own eyes, but somehow it was still theoretical? Whatever. I didn't want to argue with the lady since her kids were right there and it was clear she was the type of person that couldn't be convinced, because they're crazy, but she kept pushing. She said that there is scientific proof that the world is only 3,000 years old, so there couldn't have been a shark alive millions of years ago, despite her daughter literally holding a tooth from one. I told her that actually, no, there's scientific proof that it is millions of years old. And she said, no, that's just a theory, again. She then told me I should educate myself and read some scientific articles on it. This is where it got even worse. I just said, "Mom, I have read many scientific papers on this topic. I study biology and graduate this year. I've had to read several papers on this exact topic." But the entitled parent said, "Well, clearly you aren't reading real papers. There is proof that the Earth is only 3,000 years old. Plus, no one was alive millions of years ago to prove that it is any older than this. You're looking into the wrong stuff. You should really look into creationism." My blood was pretty much boiling at this point because I had to contain my anger. See, I am considered a cast member where I work, and part of my job is to keep up a chipper attitude and smile a lot. So I was trying to do this while also answering this EP's crazy questions and hopefully getting through to her poor kids. So I literally start explaining carbon dating to her. I have looked into creationism. I am a confirmed Catholic and know all about the flood. You aren't telling me anything new, but that would have happened much later than the meteor. And even as a Catholic, I know that there is hard evidence that the Earth is millions of years old. We know this because we can carbon date the bones we find. But the entitled parent just starts laughing. That's just a theory. Everything you're saying is just a theory. No, actually it's not. I know exactly how carbon dating works as I've had to use it in school. It's essentially a mathematical formula that tells us the age of something because we know how long it takes for carbon to decay. Now this whole time, EP's daughters, SK1 and 2, have been standing there with their heads down, touching all the teeth I'd laid out for them. When I said this, the first sweet kid popped her head up and said, "Oh, like they do with trees? How they count the rings and know how old they are?" I was so relieved when I heard this because it sounded like the poor girl was listening more to me than she was to her entitled parent, so I put on the biggest smile I could and said, "Kind of, it's a bit different, but it's the same concept, yeah. We can tell how old things are without being there for their whole lives, just like with trees. These animals don't have rings to count though, so we have to test them another way." The girl was smiling and nodding along and looking super excited about the concept of dinosaurs until her entitled parent cut in again, telling me how I was wrong and that once again, everything I was saying was theory. I told her that no, this was not theory. The thing she was thinking of was probably the theory of evolution, which yes, is still technically a theory, though honestly anyone with a functioning brain and basic understanding of biology would agree that we definitely evolved into being as a species, but that this was not at all the same thing. She just shook her head and violently started scrolling through her phone to find some of her research she said existed. She then became exasperated and turned to Sweet Kid 2 and said, "What was that man's website again?" And she then started talking about their pastor's website or a website he had stumbled upon or something. I internally groaned at that one. Her proof was some random website on the internet. That was the proof she was arguing against me with. A website that literally anyone can make. Her daughter, SK2, just shrugged and immediately looked back down and continued to feel the teeth I had out. The entitled parent realized she couldn't find her proof and just said, "Well, there's proof of what I'm saying, and what you're saying has just been disproved as a theory. So again, you should just look into creationism." I just gave up at that point and nodded and said, "I already have, but okay, have a nice day." As soon as she left, my stand got swarmed by a couple new families ready to see the teeth. She had literally been giving off such an aura that it caused other people to stay away from the stand. It was ridiculous. Thankfully, the next family that came over, their dad had a Jurassic Park shirt on, so that at least gave me some relief. I just really hope that those girls go to college for biology or something, or at least learn about these things in high school. Right now, I just feel so bad for them, and I'm so angry at their entitled parent for keeping something so big from her children. I can't imagine what other things those poor girls have never heard of, and I get that in the US we have religious freedom, but making your kids so ignorant to huge facts and sheltering them to this point should honestly be viewed as child abuse. I genuinely couldn't agree more with this last paragraph. No matter what your beliefs are as a parent, your children should have the freedom to find their own beliefs and live their lives the way they want to. Moving on to our next story. I'm already married, so I can't marry your son. I recently got married to the love of my life, as I said in my previous post, and my husband had already planned a honeymoon destination for us, and that is Canada. We arrived on time of boarding of first-class passengers. We then settled down in our seats, and then all of a sudden I heard a familiar voice coming from my husband's seat. I got up and went towards my husband's seat, which was 2 seats away from my seat, and saw a woman arguing with my husband. Now my husband, being a short-tempered person he is, was about to explode. Then he glanced at me and waved me to come over, and when I was about to grab his hand so that he could calm down, I was stopped by a person who was older than me. Here's how the conversation went. It was the woman's entitled son. "Hey girl, how are you? Listen, I'm in a hurry, could you please step aside?" "I will, if you give me your number." "What the frick are you saying?" "Well, I'll be honest with you, I saw you while boarding the flight and I think you're perfect for me." "What on earth are you talking about?" "I want you to be my girlfriend." "What? No, I'm already married." "Stop lying, I know you're single." I don't have time for this BS. I pushed him, then I grabbed my hubby's hand, then I took him to my seat and I tried to calm him down. At that point, I was just thinking that it's over, but I was wrong. A friendly air hostess comes over to my seat and asks my husband about the confrontation. My husband was telling her his side of the story, but was cut off by the entitled mum and her entitled son. That's him. He's doing improper things to his sister. What the heck, lady? I'm not his sister, I'm his wife. Stop lying, Missy. My son told me that you're his sister and your brother is doing indecent things to you. Lady, first of all, he is not my brother, he is my husband, and second of all, he is not that kind of man. Can you show me any proof to confirm this? We both show our wedding rings and my husband showed her some pictures of our wedding. Mom, they are telling the truth indeed. Well, I think you should marry my son. He will keep you much happier than your current husband. I'm already married, so I can't marry your son. Well, you can get a divorce, you know. Mom, I have to ask you to leave them alone or I'm gonna have to call security. Come on, man. Tell her that you hate her so we can leave already. My husband says, babe, I need to tell you something. At this point, I'm getting nervous. Sure, say anything you want. I love you so much, baby. I feel so lucky to have you in my life. You are the reason that keeps me alive. I love you. At this point, I start crying because he told me that he only had regrets in his life and even tried to commit suicide thrice when we started dating. I love you too, hubby. I then hugged him tightly and kissed him. Then a kind lady tapped on my shoulder and told me that she made a video of my husband being harassed by the entitled mum. Then she showed the video to the air hostess who called security and we see the entitled mum and son being escorted out of the flight for harassing other passengers. I hope you enjoyed this story and I feel very happy that my husband loves me so much. And if you didn't notice, the username of the person who wrote this on my own subreddit r/redditor_yt is Mrs. Watcher07. Now let's look at the top comment. Mr. Watcher07, love you too, babe. Now if that isn't the most wholesome thing you've seen today, I don't know what is. Our final story of the day is another from my own subreddit. I had a violent entitled mother. Little backstory, me and my mum have never gotten along as she walked out on me and my sister 10 years ago and has recently tried inserting herself back into our lives. In all honesty, I absolutely hate her. She was manipulative and abusive to me, my sister, and my dad. She was also a violent alcoholic and she was one of the reasons I became a police officer. I recently went out with my girlfriend, sister, and dad. We drove into central London, my dad driving my car as my arm is still a bit sore. We went to the Shard and went up to the observation deck. We looked at the amazing view for a few minutes. I call my girlfriend over and I kneel down, pull a ring out of my pocket and ask her to marry me. She gasps and accepts. I stand up, put the ring on her finger and pull her in for a kiss. I wince as I pulled her in with my bad arm. Everyone is clapping and congratulating us. We continue to look out over the London skyline for a few more minutes. We then leave the Shard and head to a restaurant that my dad had reserved for us. As we arrive at the restaurant, we see a face in the car park that I'd hoped I'd never see again. My mother. What the frick are you doing here? My daughter invited me. She said you were going out and she said I should come. My sister chimes in saying, aren't you going to congratulate them? They've just got engaged. But my dad says, EM, just get out of here now, please. No, how dare you not tell me that my son's got engaged? I've got every right to be here. No, you don't. You abandoned us. You missed out on everything. You are a violent and manipulative woman. What makes you think we'd welcome you back with open arms? You missed out on your daughter's results day, your son's results day, every prom and party, his police graduation ceremony, and I can assure you, you'll be missing out on his wedding too. Police? You became a cop? Out of all the job choices in the world, why did you become a cop? You could get hurt. I want you to resign. You hurt me long before the job would. The reason I became a police officer is because I believe in what's right and wrong. I believe that everyone deserves a chance in life and that everyone should be safe. No one should live in fear of abuse, both verbal and physical. You ruined my childhood. I want to make sure that people don't have to go through that again. The world would be a better place if idiots like you aren't in it. Just remember, I'm not that scared little kid anymore. My fiance says, please, let's just go. But my entitled mum sees the ring on my fiance's finger and grabs her arm. Wow, what a beautiful ring. Mind if I have it? I never got a wedding ring, you see. I deserve something like that. Me and my fiance in union say, no. You did have a wedding ring, a very nice one. You sold it and used the money to buy alcohol. We all pushed past her and walked into the restaurant. She tried to follow, but I blocked the doorway. Get lost, mum. I don't want you here. Leave us alone. You made your choice 10 years ago. What? I'm sorry. Please, just let me have that ring. It's what I deserve. You can just get another one. No, F off. You ungrateful POS, after everything I've done for you. She slaps me hard around the face. There's the violent alcoholic I grew up with. Just go away now. I have no qualms about having my mum arrested for assaulting a police officer. I walk back into the restaurant and show my warrant card to the manager and point out my mum and tell him not to allow her in if she tries to enter. We have a lovely meal and it was honestly one of the best days of my life. When we left, my mum wasn't there. I hope I never see her again. My sister doesn't really remember how bad mum was as she was 6 when she left. I'll explain everything that our mum did when she turns 18. Me and my fiance are getting married next summer. Well, it's great to hear that your mum is finally out of the picture for good. You absolutely did the right thing in this situation. Yep, she's family, but if she's abusive, then get rid of her. Anyway, that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching to the end. It is much appreciated. If you enjoyed, drop a like and a comment, and I will see you tomorrow with some more Reddit stories.